to the space where we meet. No hot extremes, just cool retreat. Ben's got the mic with a thoughtful sound. In the middle ground, truth is found. No left, no right, just wanna see the space where minds can wander free. When voices clash, it's a relief. Finding peace amidst the grief. We're walking that fine line. Joining hands is so divine. In our hearts where compromise is crowned. Together here on middle ground.
More and more, every day, we are living in a binary choice world. It's time for the middle ground with Ben.
Yes, indeed it is. To bring back a classic thing I used to say. Kind of just weaning this in a sense. I got a general idea what I want to talk about. I even prepared some images. It's nothing special. And I used AI to generate them. And they don't quite illustrate the point on what I'm going to talk about perfectly. So you'll have to bear with me. I'm going to do most of the explanation and talking. If I could actually talk myself right now. But I suppose I'll talk about what got me to want to do one of these after such a long absence. I was on a former Flat Earthers channel by the name of Jaronism, and he was giving this explanation about Home Depots being across an entire globe, basically, where you could have large sections of each Home Depot would level itself out and be flat, but the overall shape would be, a globe. I was about to say round, but I hate round. Round can be a circle too. If the globe proponents should say the Earth is a sphere or an oblate spheroid, be more specific. And clarifying my position, I'm on neither side of this, but I tend to be feeling more at home with the Flat Earthers, because both of us get ridiculed for even stepping outside of what mainstream science says about things, and even daring to question it if we find something wrong. But I digress. The whole point of me making a comment on Jaronism's channel was about agreeing with him basically on that idea, but not entirely, because I pointed out in my on my post that you still have to find curvature at some point. You can't just not see it. And I pointed out how it's very, very difficult to see curvature from the ground level. And even if the higher up you go, it's still kind of difficult to see it. It's been one of the contentions in this debate on the shape of the Earth, or what the Earth is, that it's very hard to demonstrate curvature. In fact, every single time that it's been attempted by the Flat Earth side, they've shown things that you can't be expected to see based on the curvature formula, which also cannot seem to be agreed upon on the globe side. So it's just, I just basically said it's just a lot of back and forth, and there's no agreement. So that either needs to be figured out in order to solve this, or you have to find some other way to do it. You can't rely on long distance observations, because refraction is often brought up as the explanation to why you're seeing too far. And it doesn't matter how high you seem to go, that still seems to be what is brought up. And whether that's true is neither here nor there at this point. My whole point was, you got to find some way around this and agree on what are the parameters if you're going to argue that type of observation. And a commenter, well, there was 2 commenters so far, and I don't usually blow up a post this much to make a video about it, but, um, it just got to me because the, uh the thing that was supposed to prove curvature according to the poster, who I will not name, is something called, phar excuse me, Pharology, I believe, would be the way it's, pronounced. Pharology. I could be saying that wrong, but that's how it's spelled, and so we're gonna talk about that particular thing because the idea was presented as if it proved curvature, because that's what the commenter said. The other thing about this, which is related, was someone asked me, "Can I see, um, can I see Mount Everest from where I'm at?" or something to that effect, and I basically started to go into what basically my argument as to why I don't believe pharology is exclusive to the globe Earth model, and it's very simple. So this shouldn't take too long. And I'm no expert by any means. I don't have a degree in this type of science. I don't have a degree in most of the mainstream sciences. Mine is of the computer science level, and it's an associate's degree at that. So it's not um, anything like this. But I think it's a mistake to think a person must have a degree in anything like this or anything that like a degree in curvature, for example, or a degree in astronomy and those types of things. You shouldn't have to be an astrophysicist to make a comment on something. All you need to do is educate yourself on both sides of an issue, and then you could read scientific papers, and if you understand them, you're qualified to make a response. The assumption that you don't understand something because you didn't go to school for it is a fallacy. You can educate yourself without a college education. It's called self-education. This is what a lot of people do. People that have more time on their hands than I do would know this a lot more than I do. So, and I know I said that twice, but anyway, this is what happens when you're a bit out of practice. So, let's start with the Wikipedia definition because that's the easiest one for me to bring up. And I'll admit that I did not go into this in depth too much, but I don't think I need to because I have a good argument to counteract this. And it's very simple and it's something that people have been talking about before. So this is not a home run on curvature being proved at all, as far as I'm seeing it. People are welcome to correct me if they want to and tell me how wrong I am. That's fine. But if you do, bring up a better argument than what I'm reading out of this article and counteract the things I'm going to say. That's what you need to argue with me against. I think it's pretty solid. I have confidence, but I could be wrong. So, and I'm sure a lot of people are saying you are, but without further ado, let's get right into this. All right. Okay. Let me bring up the definition on Wikipedia so I can read it to you. First of all, oh, let's bring up this image really quick. There we go. Pharology. So I can get it on the screen. That was what AI generated as the general concept, and I don't want to comment too much on that. It looks like a cool image. I'm not gonna say it looks bad, but this was not the idea that I was telling the AI to give me. It's kind of far off. It did get a lighthouse in there, and it did put some maps on there, and the general idea, but and the guy looking at a book, it's cool. It's cool looking. I'll give it that, but it's far off from. Well, I'm repeating myself. Anyway, so okay, get that off of there. All right, so pharology is the scientific study of lighthouses and signal lights, their construction and illumination, the variation, pharnology. I think I'm saying that right. is occasionally attested. I didn't look that one up. Since it's a variation, maybe that's something I can look into next. But those who study or enthused by lighthouses are known as pharologists. The term originally began as pharnology and is prevalent in many 1840s papers on the study of lighthouses. The term stems from the classical Latin or its ancient Greek pharos, meaning lighthouse. Pharos was also the proper name of the famed lighthouse of Alexandria, and the Greek root logos, a word or discourse, in John Purdy's The Columbian Navigator, or sailing directory for the American coast and West Indies. It was again used in Purdy's The New Sailing Directory for the Strait of Gibraltar, whatever. And I'm not good at pronouncing things, I'm just saying. And the Western Division of the Mediterranean Sea, comprehending the coasts of Spain, France, and Italy from Cape Trafalgar to Cape Spartivneto. There we go with some more I haven't seen before. Let me try this one. The Balearic Isles, Corsica, Sardinia, Sicily, and the Maltese Islands, with the African coast from Tangier to Tripoli, inclusive, improved by considerable additions to the present times. The term's usage was recognized in the Nautical Magazine, a journal of papers on subjects connected with maritime affairs, volume 13, as bestowing a passing notice, which has for some cut a figure sublime or ridiculous in our books of sailing directions. The term pharology first appeared in the Transactions of the Royal Society of Arts of London in 1847, and credited its coinage as being first introduced by the late Mr. John Purdy. A description of and list of the lighthouses of the world, 1861, also makes the same claim, noting that the term is used to describe the study of modern lighthouses from the 1800s. The term also comes from Pharos, as we've already noted. As a study in the 1960s, the term's usage was equated to lighthouse engineering, including the structure and optical systems used in the lighthouses. More recently, pharology has reappeared as an obscure or niche area of expertise that focuses on lighthouses and signal lights that surpasses hobby interests. Patrick Barkham of The Guardian noted the association with train spotters, but Vicky Gilson of the Trinity House noted that a wide spectrum of interest in lighthouses is shared by both young and old. Okay, we're not going to go over the notables. Okay, so the article doesn't really go into why this would prove curvature according to the claim. And I'm going to do my best to explain that next. It's weird. It's not even in the article. The claim by the person, let me just change to my next image though, quick. That off of there, and we'll go, I believe it's this one. Well, it's good enough anyway. This is what AI generated about the other idea. So I'll do my best to explain what actually goes on here. Okay, so you got this Fresnel lens, adding too many words in there. So and it's curved, right? And this makes it so that things can be seen further away. If you have a flat lens, it's harder to see it. So that's the basic idea behind that. The reason why you put a lighthouse up higher, according to the claim, is so that the lighthouse can be seen above the curvature of the earth. It doesn't really illustrate this very well, like I said. But the idea being, on the surface of the water, the boat cannot see the lighthouse if it's lower down, which, no duh. Like, this is the whole point I'm getting to, but hold on, okay? Let's change to the next image, and then we'll get on to why this is not proof of curvature. It's assuming curvature in this study. If it is indeed part of it, again, because the article doesn't list it, but I did some extra curricular research on this, and indeed there is this kind of thing in there. It's the assumed curvature of the Earth. So, a mute. I don't think we need to leave that up there anymore. Let's bring this other one up. Okay. You can read that already, but we understand this concept here that we have all of you can't see my cursor, but if you're looking at this horizon in this image, right? And typically in reality, what you see on the horizon is a bunch of atmosphere, because what happens, and I know I use the word atmosphere, but it's the word we have to talk about a bunch of air and gases that are out in the open, well, air, to put it simply, that it's going to be when you're closer to something, you're not seeing that effect as much. But the further you away you get, the more dense it's going to get and the more opaque the effect's going to get. It's like stacking mirrors on top of each other or anything like that. Eventually you're not going to be able to see through it. That's basically what the idea is. So that's to put it simply. So you see how you have now, if you ignore the actual horizon that you're seeing there and you look at the black line, it kind of got right what I was trying to tell it, but that black line represents the horizon as you could normally see it. Where the excuse me, I said that wrong. That represents where the atmospheric, where you're not able to see, the opaqueness is going to start, and anything that's past that line is going to be hidden behind it because it's going to be too thick to see through. So you got a tiny little object to the left there that's completely hidden behind it, and you have another object that's mostly hidden behind it because it's tall enough to be seen over it, because it's just because the height of it made it easier to see it, regardless of whether it has a light on it or not. Same thing with this ship here. It's got a taller mast on it, in the center that's sticking out, probably the lookout post or the crow's nest or observation tower or whatever you want to call it. You still have some poles sticking out here. Not all that boats can be hidden. Then you got this tiny little boat that's hidden on the right, the far right. So there's one aspect of it. And then you have perspective, right? And it's not really illustrated on here because it missed that part. And it totally misunderstood what I meant about raising the lighthouse up. It put it on top of a tower instead of on a hill, but it doesn't matter what it's on. But it works both ways. So the higher something is, the better it can be seen. The higher up you are, the better you can see things. It's a reverse in each direction. So it's the same principle, though. The higher up something goes, the more that it can be seen or you can see it, depending on where you're at in that equation. So perspective, though, also comes into play. Perspective, if you look at railroad tracks, and I don't have an illustration for this, you'll notice when you look towards the distance, it looks like those railroad tracks are also doing something, they're doing something that, like an optical illusion. You're going to see them start to almost look like they're going in a triangular fashion diagonally towards each other and shrinking as they do that. So this demonstrates that the further away something gets for you, the more it converges towards the center. Now, if you have something that's smaller, it's going to make this worse. So let me just read what I said. I said it more elegantly up here, but I get this already. So Okay, so it is necessary to put a lighthouse up higher regardless of the shape of the earth because atmosphere gets more and more opaque the further you get from the point of observation. You cannot see through it at a certain point. Perspective shows distant objects. I typoed on that. Sorry. Get more and more smaller and converge to the center of your angle of view. The smaller the object, the more this effect will hide distant objects. So I know that's slightly repetitive, but you should get what I'm saying. So regardless of whether the Earth's surface is curved or flat, it just makes sense to put a lighthouse up higher. Because if that lighthouse is lower, it's going to contend with all of the atmospheric conditions. It's also going to deal with this perspective thing. And it's going to ramp to the center. And it's going to be hidden. And not all of it's going to be hidden sometimes. But it depends on how high up you put it. The lower it is, the more obscured it's going to be. The more atmosphere you're going to have to look through, and it's going to be opaque because the sky ramps down too. You've got to remember that it's an optical illusion because the sky doesn't actually lower, but you know what I mean. That's what perspective does to the sky too. So anything that is far away, including the sky, is going to look like it's towards the ground, and you're also looking through that or trying to look through that, and you can't really look through it. So I think I've done my job to explain that in as simplest terms and that anyone can understand why it's a fallacy to say that only because of the curvature of the earth is the reason to raise a lighthouse up. It's anything you want to see more distantly needs to be raised higher. But no matter what, you're going to come to a limit of your perspective. You can't see forever. Things get smaller and converge towards the center the further away they are. The only way you can counteract this somewhat and see a bit further is go higher. You get higher than the atmospheric conditions, you can see a bit further, but you're still going to deal with them because you're going to deal with the same problem. Eventually, it's going to happen down the further down in your sight, and the same thing with objects that are not tall enough are still going to be obscured behind it. And with the perspective, they're going to shrink in the middle. So it's still going to happen to a certain point. If the Earth were a sphere and had curvature, it would make the situation a lot worse because you would also be contending with things that are actually going behind it. But the whole point is, we can't prove that's what's going on because this is all based on observations. And it defeats the purpose of what's going on and what they're saying about the lighthouses anyway. These observations from ship to lighthouse are made at sea level. You're in the water. You don't go up higher to observe the lighthouse. It's built up higher so you can observe it. So the only thing you're going to prove if you went up higher is that you can see further, which is what you already know. Okay, so I think I've proven my point, and we're gonna cut this episode right here, I think, because I do not think there's anything else to say about this. If I have I might make a follow-up video to this if I can find out some more information about why this is supposedly correct. But I have yet to find it in the time I've had to look at it, which hasn't been entirely much, to be fair. But I understand the general concept of what's being said. I understand what these lenses in the lighthouse are supposed to make the light furtherly, or you can see it further. But the key concept is height. The height of this lighthouse itself, not so much its lens. The lens helps. Don't get me wrong. The idea of the lens does help. That's demonstrated. But it's not the lens that's the important part. It's how high the lighthouse is. Because it doesn't matter what you do with that lens if the lighthouse is obscured by all this stuff I was talking about here. So, Pharology works on both. It's not proof of curvature. End of story. For now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but please do so in a respectable manner. And give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm I'm a layman on this, trying to understand it. And I believe I've exhausted my understanding as far as I need to go for the moment. If I find out any more, I'll correct myself if no one gets to me before that. But what I do not want and do not welcome is a bunch of trolls coming into my channel and calling me stupid and telling me uh, all kinds of mean things. If you want to correct me, do so in a nice, respectable manner, because I don't go around trolling globe earth channels, making fun of them, and I don't do the same to the flat earthers either. I would never dream of it. I'm stuck in the middle of not knowing what my world is because there's been enough cracks, holes, whatever you want to call it, poked into the model that's being presented to us. Please, I would love to be wrong. I would love to let this go. But you got to prove it. And you got to bring hard proof. And you can't talk over my head. And you got to be respectable and kind. But I don't have all day to debate it with you. I work for a living. So please, before you respond, keep all that stuff in mind and try to do so in as simple terms as possible. Direct me to videos I can watch if you want, but don't waste my time with it. All right? That's all I'm asking. And with that being said, I will see you on the next video, whenever that happens to be. Hope everyone has a great day, evening, and many more of those, assuming I don't come back sooner. Bye for now. Thanks for watching.